Welcome everybody back to the Spinner Rack. Today I'm here with my boy Cal. Say hello to everybody, Cal.
Ready to rack.
Hey, so today we're going to be discussing that ominous situation is occurring in the comic verse.
Easy
or
discussion.
The MCU verse. You know, something that's been bothering a lot of us, and we've been taking it out. But you know what? The question is, have our anger been in vain? Are we looking at the wrong villain? Cal, what is your take on Sony versus Marvel? Or, excuse me, the big bad mouse, Disney?
I don't. This is not a. It's just so stupid. Look, okay, and this is probably one of the best businessmen on the planet. If he was Disney, he would say, no. It's time to you got to give up some more money at the end of the day. And Sony's coming over here trying to have some principled stance, where like, no, we have the right. Like, get out of here.
Probably we need to lay it out for people who may not understand what's going on.
Theony got the rights. Okay. Well, you know what? You know the business aspect.
Right. So
why don't you take that?
Initially when Marvel was just a regular comic company, they were licensing out some of their major comic titles: Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Hulk. You know, when they got into dire straits, they went into bankruptcy. To get money, they started selling them. So some of these companies actually took control of these, such as Spider-Man. X-Men, we all know, was controlled by Fox. Disney now owns Fox, so they can do whatever they want to do with it. Prior to that, you couldn't say mutant in the MCU, but now I guess mutant, you no longer have to say enhanced being or whatever. You can start using the word mutant. The question is when they're going to do that. But that's a whole nother video. This video, though, we're talking about the fact now that Disney and Sony did a deal to get Spider-Man into the MCU. And the deal was basically, from what I've heard, and it could be wrong, but what I've heard is that Marvel would allow Marvel to have Spider-Man in several of their properties. So we saw Civil War, which was a big shock and was a huge movie. It made money and people loved the whole Spider-Man. We see that he also showed up in the Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War, which was huge and plays into the whole Spider-Man Far From Home because it tells us what happens afterwards. But the financial deal was basically Sony would put up the cash for all the Spider-Man movies and we'd get the return of 100% of whatever was there. Marvel, on the other hand, or Disney, would get all the licensing fees, which is considerable amount of money, a lot of money when you're talking about T-shirts and cups and book bags and stuff. So they made some money. But what happened is Disney just did Avengers Endgame. By the way, Disney has made $7 billion in 6 months. No other movie company has ever done that. In fact, last year they made $7 billion, and it took a whole year to do it.
Yeah.
And now they've done it in 6 months. And they looked to the other side and noticed that, hey, out of the top movies of the year, Disney had like the top 5 or 6 movies. They look at the other side and they notice one glaring example is high in the top 5 is Spider-Man Far From Home.
Right.
And they're like,
and it's our movie.
Let me get a piece of that. And so they go to Sony, and Sony's like, dude, we got a deal. The deal is whatever. And Marvel's like, well, we got to change the deal because basically your guys benefiting from being part of the MCU.
Which is true.
Which is a legitimate thing. So that's just the basic standoff. So the question is now, Disney comes in playing hardball because, the mouse ain't nice. The mouse is sweet. You know what I'm trying to say? They got all the power now. And the mouse is like, yo, dude, if you don't give us a piece of this, guess what? You ain't in the MCU. So is Spider-Man, is it more important for Spider-Man to be in the MCU?
Yes.
Or is the MCU bigger than Spider-Man?
Yes.
But knowing this, and I'm going to push this to Kyle, Kyle has always said that Spider-Man is the gateway character for Marvel.
Yeah, he is.
So, what's your thoughts on this, my man?
Sony's going to take an L on this one. But, I mean, here's the mistake that Sony made. You had the rights to Spider-Man. And again, these rights are not forever.
No, they own the rights. They own the rights.
The film rights.
They own all the film rights.
Yeah, but that's not forever.
Yeah, they have it. It's theirs. They bought it.
It's not forever. Nobody gets rights forever. There's a limit. There's a limit to how it can be 80 years, but there's a limit to how long.
It's not coming back. I think they bought it kick and caboodle.
I know there's a limit, but hey, let's go because any license, any type of rights or any type of rights that you bought, because they still have the original property guys still have the right, they have the chance to get that back. It may take some time, but they'll have it. But the mistake I saw that Sony made was that you made your Spider-Man films, and your Spider-Man films were successful, but Sony realized our ceiling for these Spider-Man films is like about 800 million. I mean, maybe we can even get to $1 billion at one point. So the film stopped making that particular ceiling. Okay, I think the last one that overperformed was Spider-Man 3. And then after that, you start seeing them take in less and less. And then they made the mistake of looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe and saying, wow, look, they brought all these guys together, and then they made that big film. Let's do that too. What was that? That was called Amazing Spider-Man 2. Didn't do as well as they liked. And then they decided to put, instead of saying, okay, let's retool, stay with Andrew Garfield, let's retool and see about getting some more films out. They're like, nah, we don't see it anymore, because everybody was trying to do what Marvel did at that time, which was foolish on their part. Marvel, okay, sees them limping and says, hey, buddy, can I give you a hand over here? And they come over and say, yeah, sure, I'll take the hand. And what was the hand? Hey, why don't you just let Spider-Man come over to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? It's like free promotion for you. And it was.
Yes.
It's like free promotion for you. Let it come over here. And hey, you keep the stuff over here. You keep the stuff over here. You take all the money from the films, and we'll just take the licensing. Like you said, good deal, right? Only, okay, that Spider-Man appeared first in Civil War.
Civil War.
Okay, so that whole thing was crafted by what? Marvel Universe. Then he's in Endgame, and
then he's in
Infinity.
Far From Home, right?
No, you're talking about Homecoming. I'm just talking about the Marvel films right now.
Yeah.
But we first see him in Civil War, okay? And then you also allow him to be in Infinity War and Endgame,
Correct.
where you see all of this craftsmanship of his character. The major moments you're seeing are in those Marvel films. Now, come back to the Sony-produced films, the Sony-produced film. Sony put out the money, but who put the direction in there? Story, everything of that nature. It wasn't Sony. It was Marvel who did all that stuff. That's right, people. So all you guys over, no. Marvel had a hand all through that, because those films still had to connect to what? The Marvel Cinematic Universe. And those films were still getting what? A whole bunch of push. Every single Spider-Man film that came out was riding on the coattails of something else that Marvel had done, especially Far From Home. How many people went to see Far From Home? Why? Because you saw Endgame, and now you wanted to see what was going to be the end result that was going to fall over there. So Sony has nothing really to say at this point. It's one thing if Sony was going out and they came up with these great ideas on their own, like, no. Sony was like, hey, this is, okay, fine. We can still reap the money. We're just putting up the money. That's the easiest thing to do with these films. We're putting up the money.
And they're taking the L.
Okay.
And if there's a loss, then they take the loss. But they're putting up the money. These are very expensive films to make. Look, I gotta disagree. I hear you. You've made excellent, intelligent points, but you're missing the soul of the argument.
No, this is money. This is money.
Spider-Man is the soul of the Marvel universe. Mm-hmm. And without Spider-Man, if Marvel wants to play the mafia, the gangster, the mobster, and try to strong arm Sony,
they'll win.
Totally wrong.
And if they play it wrong, they're going to end up getting the rights back.
No. So look at this. Just looking at some of the numbers right now. Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man did $709 million, which is less than what he did, $757 for the very first film. That's worldwide, right? Mm-hmm. Which is not great. But
it's not terrible. It's just not terrible.
Did $880 million. The question is cost. These movies cost so much money, so they end up not making as much or making less than they did.
The Garfield films were profitable. Both of them.
But not as profitable as those.
Not as profitable as they might have liked, but then if you're going to talk this sole argument at the end of the day, okay, one film made $709 million, the other one made 800 and some odd million. I'm like, look, okay, how much money do you need to make, and what were your costs to make it at the end of the day?
Isn't that what you're talking about?
What? I'm saying Sony.
Sony
took the bait. Sony took the bait. Sony was like, hey, you guys do this, we'll take over the. Marvel crafted that. That's not Sony's character anymore. He belongs in the Marvel universe. Now, it's something different. If you decided to transplant what they were doing with Andrew Garfield into the Marvel universe, that would have been something totally different. You have a fully established character. Marvel did that whole thing. Now, Sony's like, well, you know what? We're going to keep it. Anybody who goes to a film now, who goes to a Spider-Man film now, expects to see what? They expect to say, well, we can't see anybody else?
But Sony owns him, and he's the soul of the Marvel universe. Mm-hmm. He is the center, especially now since Iron Man died and is giving him the Iron Spider. Everybody expects to see this.
And they're dumb enough to argue right now. Has Sony watched the movies? Have they watched the movies and stuff? Oh my God, we don't have an autonomous character anymore. This guy has been on the Avengers. He's like getting ready to take the place for Iron Man.
But if we do a solo, that's what you're saying. But Sony's argument is going to be like, tells Marvel, look at how important our character is. He's been put front and center of the Marvel universe, and now you say you want to yank him out.
And Disney
That's
will say,
crazy.
Disney
That's
says, you know
crazy
what?
talk.
We're going to give you guys time, okay? We're going to roll out all this other stuff we've got. We're going to do these other, we're going to do these other films. We're going to reintroduce, and we've already got the track record, buddy. We've already got the track record, okay? Because the mouse doesn't play, right? The mouse doesn't play. So they're going to roll out their films and keep trucking along, and we've already got a plan of what we want to do. What are you going to do right now? Do you have a plan?
Yeah,
no.
they got a big plan. They're going to come out with another Carnage. They're going to do 3 or 4
I'm talking
more.
Spider-Man. What are
Spider-Man,
you
that's
going to
what
do?
they're going to do Spider-Man. They're going to do another Spider-Man, another Carnage.
No, but what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the next film? Because Sony doesn't have a plan. Marvel has a plan.
A Sinister Six movie. They have.
No,
plans.
that's all. They tried to do that before and it didn't work. I'm saying now you want to do your 3rd Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland. What's the movie going to be about? Because Marvel was the people. Marvel made certain all that stuff connected to their universe, so they knew what they wanted to do. But Sony's like, no, we're going to do this on principle. He's like, you know what? Go do that on principle. What's the plan? Oh, that's right. You don't have one, and whatever you do have has to now be totally autonomous from whatever was going on with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'll be the first one to go over here and look and say, okay, if they pull it off, I'm like, okay, Sony, you pulled it off. You really went in there to get the talent. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening. Why? Because Marvel has all that talent. They have all the writers, all the directors, and it's not a money issue. And we both know it's not a money issue when it comes to Disney. What is it really about? What does Disney really want at the end of the day?
They want control of the world.
No. What? Okay. Besides that, okay. What is it that they really want when it comes to Spider-Man? They want that character back. They don't want Sony to have him.
Yeah, they want the character back. You're
Okay.
100% right.
They don't want that character back. And the
But
simplest
the way
way.
they're doing it, the rough housing, the mob-like tactics.
Hey,
basically
just
what
be
the-
glad the mouse went in. Because if it was the duck, we wouldn't even be here to talk about it. It's
Because
good.
what you're basically telling me, it just hit me now. Basically, what Marvel did, they were playing the long game, and they're like, "Yo, hey baby, here, let me give you a little something."
That's right. They did
something-
Iceberg Slim on these guys.
So they had them come in, like, "Yeah, I'll take care of you and stuff like that."
It's like, yeah, the
But
first time
but
is
now
free.
The money hit it made $1 billion, and now the mouse is like, "Yo, pay up."
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying? And you're like, "Yo, what?"
And Sony
got sucked.
Sony can go by this agreement and say, "Hello, no, this was the
It's a
agreement."
legit agreement.
But we both know how business works, okay? If you have an agreement with me and I say, wait a minute, the money's going up and everything, no, we got to change this agreement because I'm not your bitch, okay? I'm not going to be your sucker, okay? You're not going to pimp me. If your money is increasing at the end of the day, well, no, my money has to increase along with it as well. And if that means maybe I get the character back eventually, that's what they're looking for long term. So now, I mean, look, it would be much easier if Sony was autonomous with this whole thing, but they're not. And everything that has happened with Spider-Man since Civil War has been connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Everybody has liked it. And as much as people may want to say, oh, Disney's being greedy, all of those people over there still want Spider-Man to be a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's what's going to happen. Sony is not going to roll the dice on this one and go their own way with it. Why? Because they are still reeling from the last time they went their own way. They have not made a good Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man has made in the
Maybe Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that one.
That was a very good movie.
That was an excellent movie. But Spider-Man 2, everything else, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man, which I enjoyed, but for whatever reason other people didn't.
I enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, which again I enjoyed.
I
Other
didn't
people.
enjoy that one very much.
Those are what they have over there. So you have your track record is middling and checkered at the end of the day. Marvel can't stop making $1 billion. Okay, people throw money at Marvel. Okay, they throw money at Marvel like those teenage girls threw their panties at Elvis Presley. It's just it can't be stopped. It can't be stopped.
You know, all I got to say to just end this up is because we're kind of agreeing, we're kind of disagreeing because my point is just that Sony has to stand up to Marvel. If they don't stand up to Marvel, then Marvel's just going to basically
Okay.
They're gonna
See,
take over every single property that there is now.
See, I wish we could do like I wish we had something we could see
Universal's
like the behind the scenes stuff. Okay, because this guy, there's a reason why I call him big business. Okay, he knows what the play is over here. He knows that Disney has to come in there and ask for the money. Because if not, Sony's going to think they're a bunch of bitches. Like, look how much money we're getting over here, and these guys are doing all this work, and all we're doing is just putting up the money. So we're just getting a free return. This is like investing in the stock and just putting your heels up. We're not really doing
But you're making
anything.
hundreds of millions of dollars a year off
And
of licensing.
And Sony, and in the same breath, Sony has to take Sony's like the underdog right now, so they have to come over and say, well, hey, we had an agreement. Why don't you want to stand by this agreement? So, and Sony knows good and well that she was on the other foot. They'll be like, oh, no, you got to give us a little bit more money over here.
You got to pay up.
That's just the nature of business. That's just the nature of business.
But here's the problem. As I says back here, divided we fall. By this ridiculous fight going on, nothing happens.
It
So the
hasn't
only
even
way-
been a week yet.
But I'm just saying, but Marvel's doing strong arm tactics as opposed to saying let's talk about it over. No, they're saying look, you play ball or they're out of the MCU. That's serious stuff, bro. You know what I'm trying to say? We're talking about from
And
far
when
from
Sony
home-
knuckles under, don't worry, Disney will take less money. Disney will take less money. Instead of 50%, Disney may take 20%, 30%. Disney will take less money. But the second they start getting a cut in it, it's over. It's over, dude.
It's already going over for right now. Like
It's
you said,
over.
their thing was just come in, we'll just take the licensing. And now they're saying, well, now we want more. We want half, baby. I want half.
That's
You know
right.
what I'm trying to say?
I'll say, look, Sony came in. Sony came in and the lights were low and the soft music was there. Say, hey, would you like to have a little wine or something of that nature? And before you know it, what do you now? You're stark naked wondering what the hell is going on. You shouldn't have drank it. You knew what was going on at the end of the day. Now what are you going to do at the end of the day? But, all analogies aside, this is how business is done.
It's bare knuckle business.
This is how business is done because at the end of the day, this is about, for the big guys, this is about money. Okay, this is about money at the end of the day. And capitalism about, hey, I'm trying to make as much money as possible. For Disney, however, the long-term goal, we want that character back.
That's
okay,
true.
you got that character on a song because Marvel was going through bankruptcy. You got that. That's how you got Spider-Man. Okay, and Disney's looking like we would have never given you that character. At the end of the day, we're gonna get it back. And who's Sony? Sony is like Disney is like Bruce Lee. Okay. And Sony is like the Karate Kid. You're like,
But Sony makes a great argument when they're saying, look, you guys are making licensing. You guys can do TV shows, movies, not TV shows. You guys can do theme parks. You can do sneakers, shoes, everything.
and you
make
guys
so
can
much
go
money.
you guys can continue to make CDs. We want that character back. Okay, we didn't tell you to get into the film business. You guys started doing what? With music and your electronics. Go back and make some good headphones and speakers and give us Spider-Man.
Oh my gosh. All right, listen, we got it out of the way. So listen, everybody. So we're our discussion on whether Spidey should come on home to the MCU or stand tall.
Come on back, Spidey. You know where you belong.
Spin a rack out.